Alright, there it is. Today I am going to be debating why the U.S. federal government should substantially reform its elementary and secondary education in the United States. The current education system for elementary and secondary students, it's not efficient. There's too many flaws, too many things that could easily be fixed but are ignored by the government. Of these three main points, I'm going to talk about social issues, impaction, and the quality of education. Starting with social issues, I'm going to make it very clear that schools fail to teach morality to their students, and it creates learning environments where students are bullied over race, income, and other uncontrollable factors that are just out of their reach. And it's very sad because there's nothing they could really do about it. They're just stuck because the government fails to do anything for them. According to the New York Times, the curriculum of every state in the country fails to teach children how to build good character. This is very sad because they end up becoming adults with poor character, and it really puts it on the households to teach their children characters when obviously a lot of adults aren't having good character themselves, so how are they going to be able to teach their children character? And this just creates a long cycle of generations that have very poor morals, and it really does end up hurting society, and it really is up to the government to have an input on this. A generation of students without morals will cause the economy to be filled with unfaithful, unethical students who make greedy business decisions that may better their bank accounts, but it's going to severely hurt the economy and society. Poor morals cause students to be placed in situations where they're bullied and unable to learn the material as well as they were in peaceful environments. And again, this is just something that the government really has to start funding. They need to make sure that these students are comfortable, because if they have to worry about getting bullied or just being uncomfortable, they aren't going to be able to focus on the material, and it's going to end up taking more time to learn something that they could learn in a lot less time. The second issue I wanted to talk about was impaction. Schools are sticking up to 50 students in a classroom, and that minimizes the education of the average student. As the budget decreases for education across the nation, schools are beginning to hire less teachers, and that forces classes to contain less students. This allows for less one-on-one time, restricting the chances of students getting the help they need. Teachers will have less time to focus on individual students. This is really upsetting because a lot of students, they just need that extra push. They just need to have their problem identified by the teacher so they can excel and grow at the pace of the classroom. This also stops other students that are very advanced, that they just need the teacher to acknowledge that so they could get out of there. But with so many students, it's difficult for them to get the attention they need so they can get the education they deserve. Also, touching on impaction, more students will cause more distractions in the class, and it will stop the progression of the class. With 50 children in a classroom, it's very hard to keep track of all of them and to make sure that they're all studying. This is going to cause a lot of disruption, and it really does ruin the progress of the education. If you stick smaller students or smaller amount of students in a classroom, they can be easily controlled by their instructor, and it is a lot easier for them to be efficient. Lastly, dealing with impaction, all students, they learn in different ways. If you stick a large amount of kids into a classroom, it increases the amount of students that are put into classrooms that don't necessarily match up with your teacher's teaching method. We keep in mind that every teacher teaches differently and every student learns differently. And if you put all the students with one teacher, it limits the pair of a beneficial relationship between them. So the last major point I wanted to talk about today was the actual quality of the education. Some states have high school graduation rates that are as low as 50%, and this is because their primary and secondary schools, they just don't prepare them for high school. This is really sad because you look at certain classes, using the math program for an example, where students are passed along year after year out of pity, and it's really hurting the students because you'll have a 8th grader who could only do math at the 3rd grade level, and now that they're at the 8th grade level, even if you put them in a remedial class, they're not going to be able to perform because they've been passed along for so many years that they're just not efficient. Also, the quality of education suffers because the restriction of so many important documents. You look at a lot of religious documents like the Bible or the Quran, they're not able to be touched on because someone might get their feelings hurt, and this really cuts an advantage for most students because they could have learned very well through these documents, but they can't use them anymore. Also, a lot of scientific theories such as evolution, they cannot be taught to full extent because the government just doesn't allow for it. This really needs to be changed. This isn't even something that needs to be budgeted. It's just something that needs to get passed to improve education. That's all I got for you guys. Thank you.